Documented patrol logs. Authentic visual evidence. Absolute truth. This is Bodycam incident reports.
Unplug that device. Red outlets are for life support only now.
It is life support. Biomed cleared it Tuesday. The tag is right there.
Don't argue. You're being aggressive.
Head charge nurse Brenda Miller had no idea who she was talking to. The elderly black man in bed 402 wasn't just some confused geriatric patient trying to be difficult. He was Colonel Isaiah Freeman, retired U.S. Army Medical Corps, a man with 35 years of service running field hospitals in active war zones. He was a decorated trauma surgeon who had actually sat on the ethics board that helped draft the very patient rights protocols Brenda was currently violating. And in the bed directly across from him, separated by a thin curtain that was slightly pulled back, a young law student had already pulled out his phone and started recording everything. In the next 24 minutes, Brenda would lose her license. The hospital network would face a lawsuit that would shake its administration to the core, and this incident would become a mandatory case study in medical ethics and cultural competency training across the country. Before we continue with this absolutely infuriating story, I need you to do something. Drop your country or state in the comments right now. We want to see where our community of justice seekers is watching from. And if you want to see more stories about people who know their rights and stand up to bullies in positions of power, smash that subscribe button. This is about to get intense. Thank you. Colonel Isaiah Freeman, retired, was 68 years old. He was a man of quiet dignity, the kind of person who commanded respect not by raising his voice, but by the sheer weight of his presence. He had spent 3 decades in the Army, rising through the ranks from a field medic to a colonel in the medical corps. He had overseen the evacuation of wounded soldiers in Iraq, managed massive military hospitals in Germany, and spent his final years in the service auditing medical facilities for compliance with federal regulations. He knew healthcare law better than most hospital administrators. He certainly knew it better than the average floor nurse. Isaiah had a condition known as severe COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, a legacy of years spent near burn pits during his deployments. To manage it, he used a specialized portable oxygen concentrator, the OxLife Independence. It was a state-of-the-art device, fully FDA-approved UL safety, rated for hospital use, and critical for his ability to breathe comfortably without being tethered to a wall outlet. This device allowed him mobility, dignity, and consistent oxygen flow. The device was about the size of a small carry-on suitcase, sleek and quiet. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, and the hospital's own patient-owned equipment bylaws, he was explicitly permitted to use it as long as it had been biomed checked, which it had been upon his admission 3 days ago. A sticker on the side of the machine from the hospital's own engineering department proved it. Isaiah was currently at St. Jude's Regional Medical Center in Chicago, recovering from a minor hip replacement surgery. He was an ideal patient, polite, self-sufficient, and quiet. He used his own machine because the hospital wall oxygen dried out his nasal passages and limited his ability to walk the halls for his physical therapy. Head nurse Brenda Miller had been with St. Jude's for 15 years. She was 48 years old, a woman who had let the stress of the job curdle into a need for absolute control. She was known among the junior staff as a tyrant, someone who took pleasure in correcting patients and staff alike. But there was something darker in Brenda's record, a pattern of complaints from minority patients who felt dismissed, talked down to, or treated with suspicion. None of these complaints had ever stuck. She always framed them as patients being non-compliant or aggressive. She saw her role not as a caregiver but as a warden. She expected submission. It was a Thursday evening just after shift change. Brenda was doing her rounds already in a foul mood due to a scheduling error that had left the floor short-staffed. She walked into room 402 not to check on the patient's pain levels but to inspect the room for clutter. When her eyes landed on the OxLife machine humming softly beside Isaiah's bed, plugged into the red emergency power outlet, her eyes narrowed. She didn't see a medical necessity. She saw a rule being broken. She saw a piece of personal property that didn't belong, and perhaps unconsciously she saw an older black man who she assumed didn't understand how high-tech hospitals worked. "Sir, I need you to unplug that device right now," she said, her voice sharp, cutting through the quiet of the room. Personal electronics are not allowed plugged into the red outlets. Isaiah looked up from the tablet he was reading. He adjusted his glasses, his demeanor calm. "Good evening, nurse. This isn't a personal electronic device. It's my FDA-approved oxygen concentrator. It was cleared by your biomedical engineering team on Tuesday. See the yellow tag right there?" He pointed to the tag. A reasonable person would have looked. A reasonable person would have checked. Brenda didn't look. "I don't care what tag is on it," she snapped, stepping fully into the room. "That outlet is for hospital-grade life support only. You are drawing power that might be needed for an emergency. Unplug it. Use the wall oxygen if you need to breathe." "Ma'am, the wall oxygen dries out my sinuses and causes bleeds," Isaiah explained, his voice steady, the voice of a man who had negotiated with generals. "This machine is adaptive, and under the ADA, I am entitled to a reasonable accommodation to use my own medical equipment, especially since it has already been inspected and approved by this facility. I am not causing a hazard." "Are you seriously arguing with me right now?" Brenda's voice rose an octave. She stepped closer to the bed, invading his personal space. "I don't have time for this. I have 30 patients on this floor. I don't need one of you making up rules." "I'm not making up rules," Isaiah said, closing his tablet. "I'm citing St. Jude's Policy 44B regarding patient-owned equipment and Title III of the Americans with Disabilities Act. You are currently attempting to deny me a medical necessity based on a misunderstanding of the electrical code." "The electrical code?" Brenda scoffed, a sound of pure derision. She looked at him with a look that Isaiah had seen too many times in his life, a look that said, "Stay in your place." "I'm the authority on this floor. What I say goes. Now you can unplug it, or I can call security and have them confiscate it. And if you continue to be aggressive, we will discharge you." "Aggressive?" Isaiah repeated the word, hanging in the air. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't moved. He was lying in a hospital bed. But he knew that word. It was a weaponized word often used to silence men who looked like him when they dared to advocate for themselves. "Quick question for everyone watching," the narrator interjected. "Have you ever been called aggressive or difficult just for calmly stating facts? Type yes or no in the comments. We see this happen all the time, and it's a major red flag." Brenda's face was flushing red. "Excuse me, you need to watch your tone. You are a guest in this hospital." "I am a patient," Isaiah corrected, his voice hardening just a fraction. "And my tone is professional. But you need to check your nursing protocols because you are about to violate a federal statute and expose this hospital to significant liability." "That's it," Brenda snapped. She reached for the wall phone. "Security to 402. I have a non-compliant patient creating a disturbance." Isaiah sat there, his heart rate monitor beeping slightly faster, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of combat. He recognized the terrain. This wasn't a medical interaction anymore. It was a power struggle. In the bed next to him, separated by the curtain, a 23-year-old named Mateo Garcia had been listening. Mateo was visiting his grandfather, who was sleeping heavily under sedation. Mateo was a third-year law student at the University of Chicago. He had been editing a paper on his laptop when the voices started rising. When Brenda had said, "I don't care what you think you know," Mateo had silently turned his phone camera on. He angled it through the gap in the curtain. He wasn't capturing just audio. He had a clear shot of Brenda's aggressive posture, her pointing finger, and Isaiah's calm seated position. Brenda hung up the phone and turned back to Isaiah. "Security is on the way. You're going to learn that you don't come into my hospital and tell me how to do my job." 2 minutes later, a security guard named Officer Davies arrived. He was a younger man, looking tired, clearly used to being called by Brenda for petty grievances. "What's the problem here, Brenda?" Davies asked, looking between the angry nurse and the calm, elderly man in the bed. "This patient is refusing orders," Brenda declared, crossing her arms. "He has an unauthorized electrical device plugged into the emergency grid. It's a fire hazard. I told him to remove it, and he became verbally abusive and aggressive. I want that machine out of here." Davies looked at Isaiah. "Sir." "Officer," Isaiah said, shifting painfully to sit up straighter. I am Colonel Isaiah Freeman. This is a prescribed oxygen concentrator. It has a biomed inspection sticker right here on the side signed by your engineering department 3 days ago. Nurse Miller is refusing to look at the sticker and is ordering me to compromise my health by using a system that causes me medical complications. I have been neither abusive nor aggressive. I have simply stated the policy. Davies looked at the machine. He saw the yellow tag. He looked at Brenda. Brenda, it's got a tag. If Biomed cleared it. I don't care about the tag, Brenda shouted. The mask of professionalism was completely gone now. I am the charge nurse. If I say it's a hazard, it's a hazard. He is undermining my authority in front of other patients. I want it gone. Either he unplugs it or he leaves. I won't have this attitude on my floor. Do you think the nurse was acting out of concern for safety or was she on a power trip? Let us know below. Officer Davies was into bind. He knew Brenda. He knew she could make his life miserable if he didn't back her up. And in the hierarchy of the hospital medical staff, outranked security on clinical floors. Sir, Davies said, his voice apologetic. If the charge nurse says it's a safety issue, I have to enforce it. We can sort it out with the patient advocate in the morning, but for tonight, you gotta unplug it. If I unplug this, Isaiah said, looking Davies in the eye, I will be forced to leave. I cannot use the wall system for more than an hour without bleeding. Are you effectively discharging a post-op patient at 900 p.m. because of a personal vendetta? I saw... Dania. It's not a vendetta, it's safety, Brenda yelled. Unplug it or I'm calling the police for trespassing. I will leave, Isaiah said. The decision was made. He was not going to stay in the care of a woman who viewed his existence as a challenge to her authority. I am leaving against medical advice under protest due to a hostile care environment and denial of ADA accommodations. Fine, Brenda scoffed. Good riddance. Don't expect your insurance to cover this stay if you leave AMA. That is a myth, Isaiah said calmly, beginning to disconnect his leads. And my insurance is TRICARE for life. They will be very interested to hear why a veteran was forced out of a network hospital. The room went silent for a second. Brenda blinked. Veteran. She looked him up and down, her expression skeptical. Sure, just pack your stuff. Mateo, in the next bed, kept the camera rolling. He captured Isaiah struggling to get out of bed, wincing in pain as he put weight on his new hip. He captured Brenda standing over him, arms crossed, tapping her foot, offering no assistance. He captured Officer Davies looking ashamed, looking at the floor. Isaiah gathered his things. He unplugged the machine, the hum dying down. He put on his coat over his hospital gown because his clothes were in a bag he couldn't reach and Brenda refused to hand it to him. I need a wheelchair to get to the lobby, Isaiah said. We're short on porters, Brenda said coldly. You can walk. You seem perfectly capable of running your mouth. You can run your legs. That was the line. That was the moment Brenda sealed her fate. Davies stepped in. No, Brenda. I'm taking him down. He grabbed a wheelchair from the hall. Sit down, sir. I'll take you. Isaiah sat his dignity intact despite the humiliation of the situation. Officer, I want your name and badge number for my report. You are following an unlawful order, but I appreciate the chair. It's Davies, sir. Sorry about this. As they wheeled out, Brenda watched them go with a smirk. Don't come back, she muttered. As soon as they were gone, Mateo stopped recording. His heart was pounding. He waited until Brenda went back to the nurse's station. Then he packed his laptop, kissed his sleeping grandfather on the forehead, and walked quickly to the elevators. He had to catch up to the colonel. Isaiah was in the lobby sitting on a bench while his son pulled the car around. He looked exhausted, his face gray from pain and stress. Excuse me, Colonel. Isaiah looked up. A young man with a backpack was approaching him. I'm sorry to bother you, Mateo said, holding up his phone. My name is Mateo. I was in the bed next to you. My grandfather is the patient in 402B. I remember, Isaiah said. I hope I didn't wake him. No, he slept through it. But I didn't. Mateo took a breath. I recorded it. All of it. From the moment she started yelling to the moment she told you to walk on your new hip. I have her saying she doesn't care about the biomed tag. I have her refusing you a wheelchair. Isaiah sat up straighter. You recorded it. I'm a law student, Mateo said. I know a civil rights violation when I see one, and I know that without proof she's going to write in your chart that you were abusive and refused care. She's going to lie. You're absolutely right, son. She is. Isaiah looked at the young man with profound gratitude. I can send this to you right now. AirDrop. Please. Within seconds, the file transferred. Isaiah watched the thumbnail appear. It was 24 minutes of high-definition evidence. Thank you, Mateo, Isaiah said, extending his hand. You have no idea what you just did. I think I do, Mateo replied, shaking the older man's hand firmly. Take them down. My grandfather has to stay there, and I don't want that woman anywhere near him. She won't be, Isaiah promised. Not for long. Isaiah's son David arrived. He was furious when he saw his father sitting in the lobby in a hospital gown, but Isaiah calmed him down. Drive me to the VA hospital in North Chicago and hand me my phone. I have work to do. During the 45-minute drive, Isaiah didn't sleep. He drafted emails. He wasn't just writing to customer service. He was writing to the Joint Commission, JCAHO. He was writing to the Illinois Department of Public Health. He was writing to the hospital's chief medical officer and the VP of Risk Management. And he attached the video. Type facts in the comments if you think Isaiah was right to document everything immediately. The next morning, St. Jude's Medical Center's legal department opened an email with the subject line, Urgent, ADA violation, forced discharge, and staff misconduct. Video evidence attached. The head of legal, a woman named Sarah Jenkins, clicked the video file. She watched Brenda Miller scream, I am the authority. She watched her ignore the biomed tag. She heard the racial coding in people like you. She heard the refusal of a wheelchair to a post-op patient. Sarah Jenkins turned pale. She paused the video and looked up the patient's file. Colonel Isaiah Freeman, retired. Oh my God, she whispered. She picked up the red phone on her desk. Get the chief nursing officer and the CEO in my office, now. While the hospital was scrambling, Isaiah was settled comfortably at the VA. His hip was checked. He had strained it walking out, but it wasn't dislocated. The doctors there were horrified by his story. They documented his condition upon arrival, noting the distress and the gap in oxygen therapy. This medical report would become Exhibit B. 3 days later, Brenda Miller was called into a meeting. She walked in confident, ready to defend her decision to remove a disruptive patient. She expected a slap on the wrist. Instead, she found the chief nursing officer, the head of HR, and the VP of legal waiting for her. There was a large screen on the wall. Brenda, please sit down, the CNO said. Her voice was ice cold. We received a complaint from the patient in 402 regarding his discharge Tuesday night. He left AMA, Brenda said defensively. He was non-compliant with safety regulations. He brought in unauthorized equipment and became aggressive when I told him to remove it. Is that your official statement? The HR rep asked. That he was aggressive? Yes, he was shouting. He was threatening. I felt unsafe. Sarah Jenkins pressed a button on the remote. The video started playing. Brenda watched herself. She watched herself invade Isaiah's space. She heard Isaiah's calm, steady voice citing the policy. She heard herself screaming. She heard herself deny the wheelchair. The color drained from her face. He wasn't supposed to record that, Brenda stammered. That's a violation of privacy. Illinois is a two-party consent state for audio, Sarah Jenkins said. But there is an exception for recording evidence of a crime or abuse in a public space where there is no expectation of privacy for the staff member performing their duties. Furthermore, the video clearly shows you lying about his demeanor. He was never aggressive. You were. We also pulled the biomed logs, the CNO added. The machine was approved. You didn't even look. You profiled a patient you assumed he was wrong, and you endangered his life to prove a point. I was stressed. We were short-staffed. Brenda tried to pivot. You refused a wheelchair to a hip replacement patient, the HR rep said. That is immediate grounds for termination for patient neglect, coupled with the discriminatory language and the falsification of the incident report you filed. Falsification. You wrote that he lunged at you, the CNO said, holding up a paper. The video shows he never left the bed until he was forced to. Brenda was terminated effective immediately. She was escorted to her locker to collect her purse and walked out of the building by the same security guards she used to order around. But it didn't end there. St. Jude's Medical Center knew they were in deep trouble. Colonel Freeman hadn't just filed a complaint. He had hired a civil rights attorney. The lawsuit cited violations of the ADA, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and medical negligence. The settlement negotiation was short. The hospital had zero leverage. The video was damning. Sources close to the case reported the settlement was in the mid-six figures. But Isaiah didn't just want money. He wanted change. As part of the settlement, St. Jude's was forced to overhaul their patient-owned equipment training. They had to implement a mandatory bias in healthcare training module for all staff, which specifically used the transcript of Brenda's interaction, anonymized as a what not to do scenario. Furthermore, Officer Davies, the security guard, was not fired, but he was suspended for 2 weeks and retrained. He had a duty to intervene when a patient was being mistreated, and he had failed. 6 months later, Isaiah received a letter from the Illinois Nursing Board. Brenda Miller had been reported for patient abandonment and falsifying records. After a hearing, her nursing license was suspended for 2 years. She could no longer work in any patient-facing role. Isaiah used a portion of his settlement money to start a scholarship fund for minority nursing students at the local community college. He wanted to ensure that the next generation of nurses understood that empathy and listening were just as important as medical knowledge. Mateo Garcia, the law student, received a surprise in the mail, too. Isaiah had sent him a brand new top-of-the-line laptop for his studies, along with a note, "To the best lawyer I've ever met. Justice requires a witness. Thank you for being mine." Brenda Miller eventually found work as a receptionist at a dental office, a job with no authority over anyone's life. In online forums, she still claimed she was the victim of a setup, but the video, which eventually leaked to local news, told the truth. The story of Colonel Freeman and the St. Jude's incident rippled through the medical community. It became a powerful reminder that titles and uniforms do not grant the right to abuse others. For patients watching this story, the message is critical. Know your rights. If you have medical equipment, carry a copy of the hospital's policy, usually available on their website, and the manufacturer's FDA approval letter. If a staff member tries to bully you, stay calm. Cite the specific rule. Ask for a patient advocate immediately. And most importantly, document everything. If you are alone, write down names and times. If you have family, have them witness. If you see injustice happening to the patient next to you, be like Mateo. Pull out your phone, record it. You might be the only thing standing between a vulnerable person and a system that wants to crush them. Mateo didn't do it for fame. He didn't do it for money. He did it because he saw a colonel being treated like a criminal and he knew it was wrong. His 24-minute video destroyed a tyrant's career and forced a massive hospital system to treat its patients with dignity. Do you think all hospital interactions should be recorded for safety? Drop your answer in the comments below. For healthcare workers, the lesson is equally stark. You are there to heal, not to rule. Listen to your patients. Check the tags. Verify before you vilify. And never ever say, "I am the authority." The regulations are the authority. The patient's safety is the authority. You are the vessel for care. Colonel Isaiah Freeman is fully recovered now. He still travels with his Oxlife machine. And when he goes to the hospital for checkups, the staff treats him with the utmost respect, not because they're afraid of him, but because the culture has changed. And that is his real victory. One night. One video. 2 careers changed forever. An entire hospital policy rewritten. All because one man refused to be small and one student refused to look away. If this story fired you up or taught you something new about patient rights, do me a favor. Share this video with anyone you know who has a chronic illness or cares for elderly parents. They need to know they have power. They need to know that charge nurse doesn't mean dictator. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We are building a community of people who look out for each other. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. Drop a comment and tell me, what would you have done if you were in Mateo's shoes? Would you have filmed it or would you have intervened? I read every comment. Thank you for watching all the way through. Thank you for caring about justice. Remember, the law protects you, but only if you know it, and only if you can prove it. Colonel Freeman knew. Nurse Brenda didn't, and that made all the difference. See you in the next story.
Our review is now complete. For more unedited field recordings, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching Bodycam Incident Reports.